I am Doomsvince, and this is day 113 of Spawn Year.
If Doomsvince wasn't a maniacal supervillain who kidnapped me and threw me in a graveyard and threatened to bury me alive on a daily basis, and if he appeared in a more corporeal way, I could almost kiss him. The Udaku story is over, and I'm still reading Sam and Twitch. This is the best feeling I've had this year since I hugged that Super Nintendo. Competent, straightforward storytelling might not be the rarest commodity in the real world, but here, it's at a premium. So far, I think I'm still reading the best of what this world has to offer, and as good as it is, I'm not sure it's even something I would read in the real world. All this urban street crime and constant profanity isn't something I usually go for. The swearing in this book isn't as intrusive as it is in others, because a lot of clever language makes up for it. Take this exchange. Skanky Spice? Don't tell me you just made a Spice Girls reference. That is so 96. Well, telling someone something is so a certain year is so 93. If I hadn't been forced to read these, I might have been put off by some of the vulgarity in issue 1 and quit there. So in a way, I have Doomsvince to thank for turning me on to something I'm finding quite worthwhile. Not that it's worth being away from my family for a whole year, or the sheer number of brain-splitting Spawn issues I had to endure to get here. This issue is a very simple, one-off story, which is a nice change of pace after a complex 8-issue mystery. I'm sure Bendis needed the break from planting seeds and figuring out how and where to let them sprout as much as my mind needed to rest. Bendis tries an interesting gimmick I haven't seen very often in a comic, especially through the entire issue. This whole story is from the first-person perspective. Dean is a not-so-nice guy, maybe a minor criminal, or maybe just an unsophisticated loser lacking in common sense. It's hard to be sure, because unlike first-person POV in a prose narrative, because this guy isn't telling us his story and we're just living the events as though we're him, there are no narration boxes. We never get in his head. It's interesting how this perspective, if it's only done visually, somewhat distances us from our protagonist, more than if we aren't reading as if we're him, but he's narrating to us. Bendis introduces us to this gimmick in a natural but also a jarring way because Dean is sitting at a poker table listening to his friends talk, and we don't realize we're also sitting at that table until everyone looks in Dean's direction, as if staring past the fourth wall. Dean's friends accuse him of cheating because he's either been scratching himself or pretending to, and slipping in cards from his sleeve. We don't know which it really is, though either is a nasty habit, but I imagine Dean really was cheating since he flips over the table and pulls a gun, fires, and kills one of his friends. Well, if he wasn't a criminal before, he sure is now. So he runs into a back alley and searches for a place to dispose of the murder weapon while trying to avoid the cops, and for about 3 pages, it's like reading GoldenEye the comic book. He throws his gun in the ocean and goes home on foot, where he finds his wife messing around with another man. This guy is not having a good night. It's probably for the best he got rid of that gun. If he was willing to kill over a poker game, I'm pretty sure that single homicide would have escalated to a triple. So Harry, the dirtbag who's playing around with Dean's wife, throws him down the stairs, and then Dean stays the night in a hotel. I'd probably have more sympathy for Dean if this wasn't the same hotel he uses when he's sleeping around on his wife, which we learned from Sam and Twitch, who were looking for him for the murder at the poker game and got the name of the hotel from his wife. Just when I was wondering if they were even in this story. Dean sneaks out the fire escape. Sam and Twitch chase him into the street. He gets distracted seeing Spawn clambering across rooftops, at least it's somebody's big tattered cape, and he gets hit by a Chinese delivery guy on a bike and dies. And the delivery guy is just fine. What an odd story. Dean is a complete idiot and totally unlikable, and I think that's maybe the point. All these events happening at once are really convenient, but it's a morality tale before it's a character-driven narrative. All Dean's sins have consequences, and they all come to him at the same time, but he isn't a victim of strange circumstances, except maybe coincidence. He's to blame for everything that happens to him. I like that Bendis opens the story with a dialogue about which of the friends at the poker table most deserves to go to heaven. He is great at establishing theme and foreshadowing his ending all at the same time. The panel layouts are still varied and dynamic, and the action is still storyboarded in a cinematic style. But I miss Angel Medina. Jamie Tollickson's art is sketchy and dreary, which I suppose fits this material, but I loved the bolder and still gritty style and the color palette in the Udaku art. Not a brilliant standalone issue, but an interesting experiment. Now I really want to play some Nintendo 64. Signed, Captain Logan.